Hello everybody and welcome to Civ House. I'm Rob and today we're going to be going over the latest notes from the Firaxis Feature Workshop. I'm really excited to get into these because there are a lot. There are like 23 pages worth of stuff that they have given to us and we are allowed to talk about them with you guys, which is pretty crazy. I'm really excited to do this because I think, Civ is evolving and there's a lot changing. And I think that, they're making a lot of progress right now, and it's really nice to see that they're trying to be as transparent as possible, and even allowing us to talk about it with you guys. Before we get any deeper, make sure you guys like and subscribe as always, and, let me know in the comments section what you guys think about this, about these different changes. Is it helping you want to play Civ more, less? Is it making you want to get into Civ if you haven't already? Yeah, and that's really all I'm looking for right now. Other than that, let's just hop into it. So the Firaxis Feature Workshop is back. We are going through round 2, as you can see at the beginning of this. And there's a lot of different changes that they are working on. They're still working on the same couple of things that we have known about since the first one, since they made all the announcements a couple of weeks ago. And now we've got a lot more to, continue progressing on. Similar to Civilization, right? They are making progress towards hopefully the ultimate version of Civilization 7. And I wanted to go through these. I've gone through some of them on my own. I have some notes over here as well to kind of help me through it because 20-something pages of reading would be quite a lot. My voice has been a little on the fritz lately. And not just that, there's just been a lot going on. So I wanted to try to condense this as much as possible and just talk about, I think, the bigger headline points this time. So the beginning is that you could play as one civilization for any age. In the previous builds, there were only a handful of them that you were able to pick. Now you can pick all of them. They're having these apex ages, right, where that's where you are at your absolute strongest with that civ. But then there are other things that you can still do, right? There are civic trees that you can still use, in exploration or in the modern age if you're playing as Rome in this situation. Or if you're playing as America, then you have one for antiquity and for exploration age. And so, they felt pretty good. I only got a few hours in the game because, again, there's just been a lot going on for me personally and for work-wise. And, what I really enjoyed about it was the fact that, I've always felt this kind of connection with just like the city names, honestly, have been really big for me. And being able to have that kind of connection when playing as one civ, and the civic trees feeling like it's still allowing you to flow similarly to what you would if you were playing an antiquity age civ was really good. Now, I've not played any of round 2 yet. I don't know exactly if we're supposed to say when round 2 starts, but when it does, I will be checking back into this because I think it's one of the most important aspects of these changes that everybody's looking for is the ability to play as one civ. Again, it doesn't personally bother me to be able to switch through them, but I'm trying to focus on that because that's the thing I've seen the most complaints about, or the most desire for change of, or I guess reverting back to the old Civilization games in our comment section here. So they still have the same civics. I didn't see the Burden of Time the last time I was playing, but they've renamed it to Test of Valor, which is a unique narrative event that introduces a temporary hardship that allows you to trade real pressure in exchange for a permanent legacy reward. It's the system's way of saying if you want to carry your civ across history, you'll need to weather a few storms along the way. Choosing to accept the Test of Valor is always optional. That's cool. I think that that's a really good addition. Like I said, I didn't really remember going through that when going into exploration, but I was very distracted and trying to focus on so many different things. But this works really well for me because it is true. Like if you want your civilization to actually make it through, right, this Test of Valor is going to be what allows you to do so. I'm excited to see how they've made those changes. The syncretism, civilizations evolve by learning from the world around them. This allows you to intentionally borrow strength from another civ that is in its apex age. This was a part of the game the last time as well, and I did like that. I felt like, it almost makes it a creative civ when you're playing it. And I feel like that is, I don't know, it's almost to a certain degree better, right, than playing as, the switching of civilizations, like, because maybe you don't want to go full on into a certain civ and everything that has to do with it. Maybe you just want to grab parts from it. I think that this allows you to do that while still having your strongest Apex civ within that. And this wouldn't surprise me if in the future, like, this was the beginnings of a true create your own civ to a certain degree. I don't think we're going to get that anytime soon, to be clear, but I could see this being the beginning of that, where, every single thing is listed. Now we have this ability for sure to just pick and choose what we want and then have that be a civilization on its own. The next thing that they had is they changed the terminology here from anachronistic to time-tested. I will say it was funny seeing this in the Discords, right? There was a lot of people talking about, hey, like, anachronistic sounds weird. It doesn't really, vibe. Like, they just felt like a weird wording. So they decided to change it to time-tested civilizations. And I think that this is going to be pretty good. We'll have to see if it sticks around, but I didn't really care either way. Personally, I didn't feel like the wording of it necessarily mattered all that much, but I can see why some people would get maybe confused or kind of feel like maybe it wasn't hitting in the way that they needed to, because again, everybody has a different experience with Civilization. That's what's made it so great over all these decades. And I think that, being able to look at it in this way and be able to change things around and just take the feedback, right, from other people is really important. Again, we already talked about Burden of Time, the test of Valor. So you've asked for, we've raised the stakes so the pressure is impossible to ignore while the test is active. All settlements will receive a -1 to -2 to every yield. All units suffer -2 combat strength during this time period. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that feels as you're kind of going through all of that. But yeah, as you can see, it's down here, the Test of Valor. I think that that's going to be, a nice little addition to the game, and one that I think will make it, I don't know, more of a choice, right? Again, they don't want it to feel like you have to do it, but it is something that is, I think, going to hopefully be beneficial in the long run, right? Then you can see here, obviously, they have the, America one. They also made it so that instead of having to have 3 celebrations, you just need 20 consecutive turns of celebrations to be able to do this. So it's, more about just kind of being able to place it in there, keep the happiness rolling, and allow for that to be a major part of this. One of my critiques that I've had with some of these changes has been that, they are connecting it to, obviously the civics tree, right? And now, connecting it as well to happiness. If you're militaristic, if you're scientific, if you're economic, you're going to have to kind of maybe push your way into these areas in a way that you had not needed to before. Maybe I'm missing something, but this, to me, connecting it in that way feels not great at times, because I think there will be certain leaders and stuff that you can play with where it will be easier, to complete these, tests of valor, to be able to complete being able to do, the civ across all of the ages, just frankly and purely because of the fact that, your type of civ, focuses more on culture or focuses more on happiness. So that is something that I feel like we'll have to see if that, changes with the future, if they can eventually make it so maybe it's more specific to certain civs or certain ages, right, to a certain degree as well. But either way, I still like the changes themselves. It's just that's something that I will be looking for and seeing if they can change as well. You can see the syncretism here, by the way. They've gone and they've made it obviously for every single civilization now, so even the UI looks really nice. I'm loving just them using these images. It's bigger, right? And the rest that they talk about is that it's its own dedicated nodes, right? The costs of it have increased, and I'm trying to see if there's anything else super of note that I had here. Added the ability to preview syncretism choices in the civic tree as well. And so I think that'll be really nice. You can see it right here, right? Will Prussia's units carry the Greek Empire through the modern age? And you can select that and decide on how you want to go about it. What are they going to change potentially into or not? Let me see here. The next is that the playable civs have expanded from 9 to 20 across all of these different expansions. The DLC ownership matters for Assyria and Carthage. So if you do not own them in the game, as playtesters, and I guess we're not going to have them, I own them. So, unfortunately, that'll be just kind of the way that it goes, for me. So you can see the screen down here, and all the different choices that are going to happen. Like I said, there were only a couple. I think there were maybe only 2 choices if you were trying to play through Antiquity. At the beginning with Rome. I'm pretty sure, not pretty sure. I know America was one because, like I said, I had done that as well. They talk a little bit about the tall versus wide empire growths, and they, discuss which of these, are going to kind of work better for that. You can see the tall paths, Abbasids, Incans, Majapahit, and the Bugandans. Wider paths, America, Mughals, the King, and the Mongolians. So, like I said, I'll probably try as America once again. I really and truly, a lot of the time when I played Civilizations 5 and 6, I was playing as America and trying to recreate the American Republic, the American Empire. So, I think that'll definitely be the way that I would like to go about it. Now we're going to move on to victories. And as you can see in this one, it did feel railroady. We talked about that. They've talked about it before. They wanted to make it a little different. So what they've put in here right now is that for military, cultural, and economic victories, they've introduced a point-based model of dominance, right? Which I think is kind of more of what we've all wanted, or at least definitely something that I've wanted. To achieve victory, you must reach a specific point threshold over the second place player and maintain that lead for a countdown. This threshold actually decreases as the game goes on, making it possible to win early only if you are really far ahead. As for the scientific victory, it remains an epic space race where every major scientific milestone contributes to being the first to launch a mission into space. Instantly love this, right? I wanted it from the beginning to be point-based or something like that, to where it's not that you have to do these certain things and, oh, you just win. Right now, it's you kind of accumulate doing things in different ways, right? And potentially getting points, in the economic and militaristic, if you're me, right? Or if you're cultural, you're using that towards your scientific victory to help you get towards the space race, right? Or if you're worried that somebody maybe is going to win the space race, you go and you take them out militarily, and that allows you to then, maybe get what you need to with these points. So it just makes it so that it's a lot more interactive. And that's something that I felt like the more and more that I've talked about, the more I've played, with the workshop, the more that I've seen all these other content creators, talking about these things in more detail, right? The one thing that but I felt like has been missing in Civ 7 is the interconnectivity between the civilizations. And it's just like, while it's there in concept, there are bones there, it hasn't felt really fleshed out. Like, I just don't feel like I care about what else my relationships are and how everything else is working. Whereas in Civs 5 and 6 specifically, I always felt like what else was going on and who I was friends with and who I wasn't and what I was trading with them, all of that stuff, and what I was using for, congresses or whatever, right? United Nations stuff, like that all felt like it was interconnected to me, and it felt like the world was that, instead of it just being like, hey, I'm basically on my own island, I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm just going to try to get to these points faster than the other people. And so this feels so much better to me, and it was just it was just something that I felt like I personally wanted more, and this allows for that to happen because it's more about what's happening with this civ can help you to, determine what you're going to do. And I don't know, maybe I'm missing it with, the original variations that we have and currently have in Civilization 7, but that just never felt the way that I enjoyed playing it, and it just didn't feel like that was available to me with the changes to victory, that happens. So, sorry, getting off my soapbox there for a minute. They've got advanced starts, right? Meaning you can start a new game immediately in Exploration or Modern Age if you have limited time. Okay, well, that's just for us. In this round, they've made some adjustments to pacing and clarity and balance around victories. A common thread in round 1 feedback was that victory progress in the late game could start to feel drawn out. I feel like that's kind of been a topic of discussion since the very beginning. To tighten that experience, victory countdowns have been shortened from 10 to 5 turns, and the default has been turned from 160 to 140. So pretty good. You guys can see, a little bit at least of the pictures here for this, and you can see kind of how the points are going to work a little bit more. It seems like, these goals are very different. It seems like there's a lot more, at least in this one, economically. I'll have to check this a little bit more later. I'm trying to kind of do this live with you guys, but there's no point goals at the top here, but with science, because it's already locked in, we know what we need to do for it. You can see that more here. This clearly looks like it should be kind of an early mid-ish game. But yeah, and then the UI and the pacing changes look good here as well. For military, here's what's changed. Each settlement is now worth 4 victory points as a starting point. I think that's pretty good. Each antiquity, original capital, including your own, is worth an additional 4 victory points. Settlement banners have been updated to show the players where these are. That sounds very nice. Each distant land settlement is worth 1 additional victory point. Each settlement captured from an ideological opponent in Modern is worth 2 additional victory points. So, why is distant lands being so less important here? Maybe I'm reading this wrong, but it just feels like, why would I ever really want to settle or capture those settlements as much instead of just focusing on where I'm currently at? Like, it feels like, getting like military victory points early is going to be maybe a little easier. I don't know. That is very interesting. I mean, maybe it's just saying that, well, I guess it's because it's worth an additional. That's why. Okay, worth 1, not 1 point, 1 additional victory point. So it's actually worth more. See, that's why you read, kids. You gotta read before then. So it's 4 plus 1, and then later on, if you capture it from an ideological opponent, okay, that's really cool, actually. That makes it even more enticing to go and take out other settlements. Yeah, okay. I like that a lot more. Sorry, it took me a second to read that. Culture. Resort towns in Modern now earn tourism for breathtaking tiles. We saw that they added the breathtaking tiles and everything more, that lens and everything. In the recent update, increased availability of relic slots. So, for all you relic players, that's good news for you. Addressed an issue where the AI was not properly pursuing cultural victories, leading to accidental player wins. That's not ideal. Okay, science as well. Moved the repeatable science project on electricity to radio. The following wonders now grant 3 science points. So there those are. Literacy and antiquity gives 2 science victory points. Social class and exploration gives 2, and then future tech and modern. So they're kind of just spreading that out, making it more of a natural flow. It feels like, to a certain degree, science is the only one that you cannot achieve technically super early. I guess you can, but without actually going into the modern age, it doesn't look like you'll be able to. So that's an interesting decision as well. In economic, you can now earn the Great Banker from a triumph in Modern. Okay, the Great Banker costs gold to activate in players' capitals to earn economic victory points. Oh, GDP. Wow. Okay, gross domestic product. Is that right? I think that's what it's called. Brain's farting today. But yeah, to earn economic victory points, that's interesting. And the cost increases after each time you use your Great Banker. Resources imported from trade routes will now count for +1 economic victory points when slotted into cities, not towns. That doesn't feel great for like Carthage players and stuff like that. So, I wonder how that's going to work. The commerce screen, see below, will show which resources are imported. So there you go. And then we got triumphs are back. Triumphs are fantastic. They replace the legacy systems, and basically, right, these different triumphs are different ways you can earn points. You can earn, money. You can earn food, whatever, and they're just different ways of, I think, getting, I don't know, accomplishments and stuff like that for rewards for actually doing certain things in the game. And I think, it makes it so that they're optional. You don't have to go out and get those, but they give you like a nice little bonus if you do. I think that they are an awesome way to do, what I think they initially intended to do with the legacy path system. But I like my empire being very broad, being all around. I will still generally go down the militaristic or the economic paths, but depending on what's going on in my game, I want the availability to do a little bit more culture or a little bit more scientific. So these triumphs help, reward you for that if those are the things that you do. Here's what's new in round 2. So we are, there's a few more pages to get through, but Triumph screen now supports filtering and searching, which is good. That was very needed. Added 6 new triumphs in Antiquity, 12 in Exploration, and 12 in Modern. Added 7 triumphs for the End of Age Crises and Antiquity, and will be converting the Exploration Age Crises to this system very soon. Okay, adjusted criteria and rewards for the majority of triumphs. So, these are kind of what triumphs look like. They're just different things that you can complete, right? And like I said, you get, little rewards. It looks like this one's +4 culture and production on wonders. So there you go. It's just the more you build the wonders, the better that's going to be, and that's going to give those dedications right to you. So they're also introducing Triumph Sets, a new advanced option feature that lets you swap in curated Triumph lists before starting a campaign. So what I didn't fully realize is that you're not going to get every Triumph in each game that you're playing. So then you can set the ones that you want, or maybe you can just set them, I guess, let me see here. Or maybe you can just set them to where you want them to be these certain things. So those are the goals that you're going to try to run through. Let's see what they say here. So default set, the default Triumph set list with 30 Triumphs per age, okay, uses the default Triumph list, but every Triumph becomes a race. Only the first player to complete it earns the reward. Okay, so they're all there, but these are the different types. I like this race Triumph set. That feels good. That is something, that's how I thought that they were originally, so that's really good. Conqueror Triumph set. Warmongers rejoice. Hey, this is for aggressive playstyles, includes the 5 militaristic Triumphs from the default set plus 4 new ones, okay? And then the classic set for those who enjoyed Legacy Paths. These Triumphs represent the same goals as the original Civ 7 Legacy Path. This is going to be really good. I want to see more ideas and stuff around Triumphs. I really, really like that. Like, this is very much what I'm talking about. Like, this is really fun for competitive, or even if you just want it in your own games. If you still want Civ 7, like, what I love is that they're making all these changes, but if you want to basically play the same game with just a couple of little changes, you can still do that. And then you guys know me as a warmonger, militaristic player myself. This feels good. That may be the way that I go about it. What else is new? A commerce screen. Economic players rejoice again, guys. Feels like this round was potentially just made for me. Just saying. I'm going to try to get as much playing time as I can. There is a lot coming up for us with work, so I'm going to do the best I can to get a couple good hours in. And this commerce screen and the warmongering and the different Triumph sets, this feels like it's right up my alley, but and maybe up yours too. One of the loudest requests coming from players is better clarity around trade and resources. Absolutely. I still think there's going to be more that needs to be done, unless if they are kind of revamping trade, in my opinion. I was one of those people who, I know, don't kill me. I think I've said it on this plenty of times, but I was one of those people who liked the negotiations, the back and forth of actually trading things for gold or for other stuff. So, free trade's a little, I don't know, a little boring to me, but that's okay. It's a place to manage resources and empire logistics without bouncing between menus. Now that is nice. So What does it give us now? It adds yield data preview when making resource assignment changes. This means you can now see exactly how science, gold, or culture will change before you commit to a resource assignment. That's good. Improved the error messaging. That's fine. Added filtering resources based on yield benefits. That's really good. Added imported indicator to identify which resources are coming from other empires. Added settlement type and location tags. Improved the visibility / clarity of the resource allocation unavailable message. And then a resource tooltip. Now display resource types, effect, and origin, and resolved camel assignments. Yeah! So slots can update correctly without manual reassigning. They're working on getting this screen and others to support drag and drop functionality. Expect to see this in a future update. I very much look forward to that. So here you go. You can see kind of this commerce section here. We can actually zoom in. I should have done this earlier. Sorry. Zooming in a little bit. There we go. So this looks a lot better to me already. You've got your resources, your trade routes, your empire, and your treasure. Very cool stuff. You can see even the camels, right, where they're connected to what city. You can see what's disconnected. They've even got the homelands here, right? So you know for sure if it's distant or homelands. Yeah, and you can see all the benefits that you're getting. I mean, this is great. I'm very hopeful for these updates. I mean, these are really nice ones. If you are one of the many Civ 7 players who have asked themselves, why can't I build a trade route to this settlement? You think you'll like this new screen. Trade information is now grouped into these 3 clear sections so you can quickly understand what's happening. So display your empire's current trade partners. Available trade routes presents all of the currently viable trade routes with explanations for why they're unlocked. Unavailable ones shows all the settlements which are currently not meeting the requirements necessary with an explanation as to why. Okay, so if it's too far or there's some other reason, it's always felt like it's just been that they're too far for me. That really works very well for us. You can see, wow, okay, even more here about that. So here you can even see like which cities they're going to, how they're going to by sea, how it's going to affect your relationship, how much gold is going to them from you as well. Okay. This looks a lot better. This works so much more. You know, what these check marks show is how you can make it happen, right? So trade route capacity, it is within range. That's really nice. That's really nice. And then you can see everything that you're going to get. I still would like the individual discussions. I really would. Again, I know people wouldn't like this, but this is still a lot better than it was because I still think that the individual discussions could be interesting, but I know that they're handled probably at a micro level by the trader themselves that's going there on their own, right? Instead of us, we're just doing the empire stuff. So I get it. We've also added a consolidated breakdown of your empire's resources. Empire resources are now presented in a stack to easily see your quantity, gameplay effects, and origin at a glance. So, you know, +1 combat strength, here's how many horses, furs, all that kind of stuff. Where you're getting them is nice. So if you're getting them from yourself or you're getting them from trade, so that it's all stacking, that's very good. You know, I mean, this is fantastic because some of these things, like, I knew, but I didn't know exactly, you know, how many of these things I had or what was going on with them. It just felt like it was all a big jumbled mess, and now it's just cleanly here in these. So I like that. Treasure, obviously, obviously only in exploration. And last but not least, the commerce screen. You have a dedicated view for treasure convoys available during the exploration age. Each settlement will display its associated treasure resources, number of active treasure convoys, and how much each is worth, how close each settlement is to generating a new treasure convoy, the requirements for generating treasure convoys, and an explanation as to what you need to correct any unmet requirements. Great, because I have not liked that treasure convoys were just so important. Personally, that was just not my favorite thing about the exploration age, with, you know, being an economic player, right? And so seeing these kind of have their own thing now works for me. It just still feels weird that, you know, they're kind of just exploration age, but it's neither here nor there. So then they have some balance adjustments. So happiness, the change to appeal in 1.3.2 was a first glance at our revisit of happiness. This patch focuses on making managing happiness a much more important part of the empire management, especially for larger empires. Local unhappiness, the impact of local happiness has increased to -5 negative yield points or per point of unhappiness to a maximum of -80% yields. In an unhappy settlement, negative happiness does not apply to a settlement's food. I feel like it kind of could, but that's okay. The negative happiness applied to each settlement for exceeding the settlement limit is now uncapped. Wow. Okay, so if you just get too big, people are going to get mad. Specialist changes. Specialists no longer have a base yield. Instead, they now give 100% of their tiles adjacency yields as additional yields. That's pretty nice. Specialist maintenance costs increased by age, now 246 in food and happiness per specialist. Most generic bonuses to specialists have been updated to include an increased maintenance cost. Towns. All town focuses have been updated across all ages, scaling by age, and have been removed from town passives. Almost all towns now have the ability to purchase a subset of buildings when a town focus is chosen and are no longer limited to tier 1 buildings. Okay, I like it because if you're going down a focus, it should be all about that. So that's still cool. I still don't like that the missing of points that we talked about earlier with towns, but that's fine. Map updates. In addition to some tweaks to actual map generation, we've revisited the value of rural tiles across all ages. Tile yield is now differentiated across biomes and no longer scales by age automatically, now increasing the value of rural tiles with warehouses and other bonuses is an active decision. Multiple resources have been updated, mostly buffed. Dude, there's so much. As simplified as they made Civ 7 is as complicated in a good way. Maybe strategic is a better way to put it. As they're doing with these major updates. Techs and civs, the cost of many techs and civs have been adjusted. Additionally, almost all passive yield increases on the tech tree have been removed. Some have been replaced with other bonuses, and the tech tree has been reorganized to accommodate. The new node in modern computation has been added to better balance the late game tech progress in modern. Cool. A lot of miscellaneous changes. They made a lot of tweaks to other areas of the game. We're hoping that you dive into the game to check out what else has been done to help guide you to some of the things that have been evolved in a subtle way. Check out city states suzerain bonuses, wonder costs, wonder yields, new business or building adjacencies, cost progress on or progression on unique improvements. So very cool. Map generation. We've also made a handful of updates. So they've made changes to how navigable rivers are spawned. In short, we've lengthened the navigable river section of longer rivers while removing really short navigable rivers to keep the total number of river tiles roughly equal. So you're not just going to get like one space of navigable rivers now. They're just going to be a little bit more. I liked some of the shorter ones. Like they didn't feel as important, but still at times like they were kind of nice for defensive positions or placing your cities near. I don't know. I'll be interested to see how this one goes. Shattered Seas. The map now has better access to distant lands. That's pretty good. We've updated the way distant lands are generated in this map, giving the player better access to distant lands and providing some real expansion opportunities after the Antiquity Age. That's good. And then erosion. Erosion can now erode multiple tiles deep into land masses and is controlled by rules like avoiding plate boundaries, harder rock, and eroding more where westerlies, trade winds blow large waves into the coastline. This leads to subtle improvements in the shape of land masses. That's pretty cool. I like that. But does that mean that that's going to affect more your cities and stuff that are placed in those areas, or are they going to be fine and it's the stuff around them? That would be interesting. Maybe you could get to a point where your city that was once on in an area on a coast becomes more of an island of itself. That'd be pretty cool. Other changes. DLC leaders should now do a better job of selecting their associated civs based on the game settings. AI is weighted against picking civs it used in previous ages. Improved AI's ability to pursue all victory types. That's good. So instead of them just locking into one, they'll try kind of based on what's going on in the game, something I've already talked about. Advisor notification screen now includes a Take Me There button to jump straight to the relevant event. That's super nice. I felt like something that was a part of the games for a long time, and then, yeah, that was driving me nuts, actually. Again, something that I didn't even think about but now that they say it, I totally notice it. Expanded advisor content for antiquity, exploration, and modern ages. Note that they don't currently have filtering conditions, so the advisors may provide advice that's not directly relevant in the moment. That's fine. I mean, we'll deal with that, later on. Age Transitions added a new Civ selection screen to better present the options of staying as your Civ versus swapping. Okay, I'm glad that they're updating the UI for that as well. Civ selection now happens at the end of the current age, letting you review your empire before committing. That'll feel better too. All traditions now persist between age. That's huge. Again, that allows you to feel more connected. And then these are just kind of, I think, quality of life and setting things up for the game. So, yeah, I mean, these are long freaking patch notes. And they're still pretty much locked into, the big things that we've talked about, right? Triumphs, UI, victory changes, playing as one Civ. All of these things are, their main areas of focus and areas that we've all wanted them to change for a long time. This is starting to feel like a completely different game. I'm wondering if at some point they will just be gone with age transitions, if that will be something that they will work on later. I think that would just be, it's such a core fundamental part of the game that it would just take so long for them to fully kind of get rid of those. But I like the changes that they're making to make it feel more fluid in its movement, or in the game itself's movement between ages and the decisions that you make. They feel like they have more weight, and there feels like there's a lot more diversity in those changes. So I'm personally very happy with these changes. I'm excited to jump into this myself. Let me know, again, what you guys think. They are listening to feedback, so if these things sound good to you or bad, let me know. Again, as I'm allowed to let you guys know about things, I will. And as I get the opportunities to play these things and get some hours into it, I will do that as much as I possibly can. Like I said, there's just a ton going on for me in my personal life and in my work life. So I'm trying to do my best to balance everything and still get you guys good content as often as I can. So, yeah, I really appreciate everything and all the support that you guys give us. I hope that you will continue to give Civ 7 your support, because it really does feel like the game is changing fundamentally and going to be hitting on a lot of areas that I think a lot of people have had major issues with. So, yeah. That's going to wrap it up for us, though, here. So, from our house to yours, thanks for watching, and we hope you'll join us for one more turn.